Hello, my name is Eric. I am going to be talking to you today about Scrumy. Scrumy is a ridiculously simple and super intuitive project management tool. It's designed for planning various tasks in a project. It essentially functions as a virtual big whiteboard with sticky notes. It's great for a number of different uses, which we'll go through in this video. If you were to type Scrumy into the URL or into Google, you're going to get to this page right here, where it gives you a number of options to start a new project board. One of the options is to simply click a new free project, and then Scrumy will randomly assign you words and numbers to give you your own board, such as this one here. What I have found is that students don't always have a good memory for such things, and quite often will forget the name of their board and can't find it again later. So another option would be to use a pro board. This will cost you about $60 a year. It does give you a few extra features than the free version, such as you can custom color your post-it notes. You can also have a revision history and a number of other things as well. I have found that the basic version is generally fine. What I suggest for my students, rather than click the randomly generated new free project, is to use their own. So what they'll do is they'll click scrumy.com up here, / and then they will call it whatever they want. Probably the name of the project. Often they will use their initials or some number that is important, and that way they're able to remember it the next day. I've just typed it in up here and we have our new project board. So as I mentioned earlier, essentially the way this works is post notes are created in one of the sections, and then as the student works on the project, it simply moves its way across the board. There are a number of uses in a classroom. One of the ones that I have found to be particularly helpful is to use this as an adaptive technology for a student with organizational challenges. And this would be a personal page for that student. They could use this for the class or for their entire day. And as the student is given a task, they would simply enter the task as a new story. So for example, this would be a survey. And so what they do with their EA or the teacher or on their own is they would simply break it down into a number of tasks. So the first task may be to write questions. So this would be questions for their survey. And they think, well, this is the first thing I need to do. I'm going to call that number 1. It comes in as yellow, it's randomly assigned a color. They would design another task. Well, I need to design the actual survey, which is another task. They're going to go, well, that's going to be number 2 because that's the second most important. And they would simply break it down to a number of chunks. When they are ready to start writing their questions, they would simply move this into progress, write their questions in another location, and when they have finished writing their questions, they move it over here to verify for somebody else to check. A peer, partner, EA, something like that, and they would simply move to the next one to move that to the progress. And then when these have been verified, they can be moved to done. And it's simply an excellent way to keep track of where they are in the project at every time so that the sheer volume doesn't overwhelm them. They could use, so this would be a different project for the same class or for a different class, and they would just do the same models. This could work as a personal planner, but also within a class as well. Another use for this, which I have found to be quite helpful, is within a smaller group. So we'll actually use the same project idea. So there's a survey, which is, we're just waiting for the computer. So once the survey has been created, there we go, they would just be simply, well, we need to write the questions. And we're going to give this task to Eric to do, and click save, and it would appear that Eric is purple. And Sheena, oh, that would be her. She is going to design the form, and so that is going to be assigned to Sheena. And you click save, and Sheena, of course, is a different color. And so what you're able to do then as you are working is, well, Eric is working on writing the questions, and Sheena is working on the form. And as these things complete, they move all the way across. What is nice is the teacher can, of course, all they need is this link, and they are able to access where they are at any one time as well. So not only is this an individual planning tool, it just works really well as a project. What can also be used is the teacher can actually use this simply to keep track of the different groups. So rather than this be called survey, this would be called Sheena and Eric. And this one could be Bill and Jill. And that would be keep track of their project and so on. And as this one advances, you can keep track of your entire class's groups on one page, accessible on any device and any computer in the world because it's web-based. So that's also another very handy use. A final use that we have used before is for a multifaceted project. So we've had a student before who was creating a multifaceted marketing campaign for a fundraiser dinner. And so in order to ensure that everything was going swimmingly, she had a different story for the different aspects of her project. So she needed to keep track of the Facebook posts and the Facebook design. That was one thing up there. She also needed to design a poster. She also needed to write a newspaper article. Right, and so what she was able to do by using Scrumy is just keep track of where things are at any one time. So when she's designed all the things that have to happen with Facebook, and she just moves them across, and at any time she can just see it. Of course, then this was also shared with the teacher, which allowed the teacher to keep track of where things are at any time as well. That's essentially how Scrumy works. One of the best things about it is that it is so simple that the students have no issue picking it up. Basically, you just show them this is the project, you basically show them this tutorial, and they would be pretty much good to go. And it keeps them on track. It also adds a level of professionalism as they are held accountable a little bit easier, and it just breaks things down into manageable chunks. Thanks, that's all I've got.